Hi, boys and girls. It's time for our small group reading lesson. I sure have enjoyed doing these with you, but I have to tell you something. I sure have been lonely. I haven't seen too many emails from you. Here's a letter I wrote to you, so be sure to read it. And also be sure to write me a letter or even an email. And I promise you, I will write back. This week, we're going to continue our study of nonfiction text. And our book is All About Volcanoes by Bill Kirk. Remember, students, when you're working on nonfiction, you want to constantly ask questions about what you're learning to see if you can find the answers to them. We are also going to be using a KWL chart. Now, I know my kiddos that I have all the time, you know what this is because we've used it. And I bet the rest of you boys and girls, your teachers have used this also. It's a great way to organize your information and it'll help you keep track of the things that you've learned, and then you can review it from time to time. The K stands for know, K-N-O-W, and it's what you already know. So I asked your teachers to ask you guys what you know about volcanoes. So I actually used some of those responses that your teachers sent me in that part. And I also asked them to ask you, what do you want to know? That really helps set a purpose. The W of this stands for want. Because then while you're reading, you can be like, oh, I knew I wanted to find that out, and now I know. Once we get done reading as far as we do this today in the book, you're going to put down the things that you have learned. That's the L part. So let's begin. One of you or a couple of you said they can be on mountains, on land, and near the sea. They can be dormant or active. Someone had some good vocabulary with that one. The magma makes them erupt. Some volcanoes are not erupting anymore. You can make a model of a volcano with Play-Doh. I guess that's because you've done that already, so you know that, but you are absolutely right. Maybe you can do that at home this week. There is lava inside volcanoes. Now, with this already know part, I want you to also realize, this has happened to me. You might be reading the book this week and go, you know what? I thought this was true, but I learned that it wasn't what I thought I knew wasn't. That's a great thing when that happens, because that means, readers, that you are learning. Now, questions you wanted to know were, why do volcanoes erupt? Good question. How do volcanoes erupt? How does volcanoes make lava? And what happens to the lava after it erupts? Good questions. Now let's look at our table of contents. As you can see there, it just says contents. I see a real photograph, right? And you know, table of contents are great, students, when you are wanting to maybe find just a piece of information without reading the whole book. I might want to know, you know, how do volcanoes really form? And so I would look at this book and go, oh, there that information is on chapter 2. I look over and say, well, I'm going to go to page 6. Because when you're studying to maybe write a report or something, you don't necessarily want to read every single book that you are gaining information from. So that's another use for paying attention to the table of contents. Now, boys and girls, I really need your eyes on the text. I made sure that the pages this week, I was able to figure out how to keep them very clear, the letters, and try to read out loud. I'm doing that for a purpose, because you cannot become a better reader if you don't read. I could read to you all day long, but you have got to be the reader and learn on your own. So, and by the way, pay attention to those nonfiction text features, because we'll be adding those telling marks. Chapter 1, Mount St. Helens. What nonfiction text feature is that? Let's begin reading. In 1980, rumble shook the ground around Mount St. Helens, a mountain in the state of Washington. Scientists watched the mountaintop grow larger and larger. They saw cracks forming, and they knew something big was about to happen. All of a sudden, there was a big boom. The mountaintop exploded with a roar. It's right beneath those words. I see a nonfiction text feature. Did you say map? You're right. And it even labels what state Mount St. Helens was in, Washington, and identifies exactly which part of Washington Mount St. Helens is in. Well, let's continue reading with your eyes on the text. The huge blast destroyed millions of trees. It flattened them like a bunch of sticks. Heat from the blast melted the snow on top of the mountain. The melted snow mixed with dust. It made a thick mud that raced down the mountainside. The mud buried houses, cars, roads, and bridges. You know what? I have to pause here because that's what good readers do. They pause when they think about the text. And I'm just thinking that is amazing that a volcano can have such horrible effects. It definitely causes a lot of them, doesn't it? And I'm looking at that photograph and thinking, my goodness, their house is totally destroyed. Everything is, basically with the entire mud of the entire volcano. I noticed on the next page, page 5, it has like a different little text box, but you want to read all the parts of anywhere on the page that you see text. This is called early warning. There you go, another text feature. Months before the blast, scientists saw clues that Mount St. Helens was about to burst. The police warned people who lived near the mountain to leave their homes. They also warned workers, reporters, and visitors to leave the area. Hundreds of lives were saved because people left before the huge blast. I'm thinking we have times that we're warned of bad weather too, like a tornado or there's hurricanes. I know, not up here, but I used to live in Florida and they sure did. And you really wanted to heed. That means to obey the warning because they're trying to keep you safe. Chapter 2, How a Volcano Forms. Mount St. Helens is a volcano. A volcano is an opening in the earth through which lava, ash, and gases come out. Lava is hot, melted rock that comes from deep inside the earth. Ash is small bits of lava and rock. What nonfiction text feature is beneath that print? If you said diagram, you're right. And then there's labels telling you the parts of that diagram of how a volcano forms. Do you see the hot melted rock underneath the Earth's surface? And the pressure builds, and it builds as in lava, where there's an opening where the cloud of gas and ash come out of. It tells more about what helps you to understand what it really does when it happens by talking about how a soda bottle could burst and kind of act as a model of how a volcano forms. It says gas gets trapped in melted rock inside the earth. The gas escapes when a volcano explodes. Then lava and rocks shoot out. This is a little like shaking a bottle of soda and then opening it. The gas in the soda causes the liquid to bubble over the top of the bottle. You'll have to do that one on your own. Let's continue to read. Some volcanoes are active. They burst or erupt often. Some volcanoes are dormant. This means they have not erupted for a very long time. Dormant volcanoes seem to be sleeping. Before 1980, Mount St. Helens was dormant for more than 100 years. Dormant might be one of those words you want to write down. Now, someone actually used that word in what they knew about volcanoes already, but maybe for you, it's a fairly new word. Look at the real photograph below that text, and then you even see a label, dormant volcano. Then on to page 14, I see another real photograph and another label, active volcano. Wow, you sure can tell the difference between dormant volcanoes and active volcanoes. And then I see another photograph, and it tells about what this photograph is. What do you call the words that tell about a photograph? Caption, very good. It says, this rock is lava that has cooled. Let's continue to read. Not all volcanoes look like Mount St. Helens when they erupt. When this big volcano erupts, red hot lava flows from openings in the mountain. Some kinds of lava move slowly, and some kinds move very quickly. When lava cools, it becomes hard rock. The rock becomes part of the mountain. Now let's look at our KWL chart. Go ahead and read the parts that you already knew and what you wanted to know as I put them up on the board. And what did you want to know? What did we learn? Well, the first thing I noted that we learned was that in 1980, a large mountain named Mount St. Helens erupted, causing all kinds of destruction. Because that was really what the first chapter was really about. And I'm telling you what, it definitely caused lots of destruction, didn't it? I'm also noticing that when I wrote down what I learned, I didn't write every single thing about the volcano. That's important because you just want to put down the main things. It's kind of like summarizing everything that you read about Mount St. Helens in a sentence. I know that takes some work, but as you do it more often, you become more comfortable with it. What else did we learn? We learned that a volcano is an opening in the earth through which lava, ash, and gases come out. Anything else? And we learned that lava is hot, melted rock that comes from deep inside the earth. And lastly, when gas gets trapped inside the earth, it explodes, causing a volcano. Excellent.